Traditional advice on handling toxic people can be your downfall. They tell you, set boundaries, walk away gracefully, be the bigger person. But Carl Jung discovered something much more powerful, and far more dangerous. The kindest souls, the empaths, either get destroyed by what they perceive or they evolve into something extraordinary. Jung warned of the psychological defense mechanism toxic people use most: shadow projection. Here's what most people miss about toxic relationships. You're not battling their conscious intentions, you're battling their unconscious projections. And that changes everything. These individuals have spent their lives serving as what Jung called the emotional shock absorbers of their social circles. They took in pain, ignored warnings, blamed themselves, and apologized for merely existing. But when their repressed power, their shadow, is finally triggered by deep betrayal, something terrifying awakens. They snap. And Jung recorded exactly what follows. The problem begins with what Jung referred to as differentiated perception. These people perceive what others overlook. They notice micro-expressions, sense hidden emotions, detect lies effortlessly, and feel the unconscious tension in every space. They recognize psychological patterns that others completely miss. Jung wrote about patients who could enter any room and instantly sense its psychological climate, who was lying, who was suffering, who held secret resentment. This wasn't delusion or psychosis. It was consciousness evolved to a level that became socially dangerous. Jung described that such a patient shows an extraordinary ability to perceive the unconscious contents in others, but that this very gift causes her great distress rather than benefit. She couldn't make small talk because she saw through every social mask. Friendships dissolved because people felt exposed around her. Jobs didn't last because her presence disrupted the unspoken unconscious agreements that hold groups together. Jung realized he wasn't observing mental illness. He was witnessing what happens when the unconscious becomes overly conscious, when perception grows too sharp for social coexistence. These people see the sadness behind forced smiles, feel the insecurity beneath confidence, and sense the collective darkness groups silently agree to ignore. Such advanced awareness isolates them. When one perceives clearly what others cannot or will not see, they become a mirror society can't bear to face. And that's when toxic people strike. Because those with highly differentiated perception expose others' unconscious material, they become prime targets for what Jung called shadow projection. When someone's hidden darkness is reflected back to them through another's clarity, their unconscious mind faces two options: integrate the shadow or destroy the mirror. Jung repeatedly documented this in his clinical work. The ones who perceive truth end up blamed for causing the very problems they merely notice. When they gently suggest someone seems troubled, they're attacked for being negative. When they voice concern over obvious issues, they're accused of judgment or fabrication. Jung saw this as no coincidence. It was a psychological defense. Everything that irritates us about others, he wrote, can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Yet for most, it's far easier to attack the one revealing their shadow than to face what's being revealed. This gives rise to what Jung termed the scapegoat phenomenon. The most perceptive individuals become the designated problem in every environment. Not because they cause dysfunction, but because they expose the hidden dysfunction already embedded in the collective unconscious. The bearer of heightened perception becomes the vessel for all the darkness a group refuses to acknowledge. That's why these people don't just feel misunderstood. They feel hunted by an unseen force. The true danger lies not in what they perceive but in the isolation their awareness creates. The curse of consciousness is that it can't be shared with those who lack it. Such individuals become islands of awareness in a sea of unconsciousness. But here's what makes toxic people genuinely dangerous. When someone projects their shadow with conviction, their brain literally reshapes reality to match the distortion. During intense projection episodes, the same neural circuits activate as in delusional states. They're not consciously lying. Their brain has rewired perception itself. That's why shadow projectors can be so persuasive. They truly believe their distorted view, as their neural filters have been hijacked by the unconscious. Their conviction forms what psychologists call reality distortion fields. They don't just mis-see you, they persuade others to see you through their warped perception. Jung documented countless cases where such projectors ruined reputations, relationships, and entire social systems simply by spreading their projections with absolute certainty. Think back to when someone accused you of motives you never had, emotions you never felt, or intentions you never held. If they did it with unshakable conviction, impervious to any proof you offered, you were witnessing shadow projection in real time. Here's what makes shadow projection so dangerous. The stronger it becomes, the more convinced the projector feels of its truth. It forms a psychological feedback loop that can trap entire families, workplaces, or even communities. The first warning sign appears when there's a total disconnect between how someone describes you and your actual inner experience. They assign you thoughts, feelings, and motives that simply don't exist in your consciousness. And they do it with such certainty that you begin to question your own reality. This is psychological gaslighting in its most advanced form, not deliberate manipulation, but an unconscious distortion of reality capable of driving victims toward genuine psychological collapse. Jung identified 5 unmistakable warning signs that reveal dangerous shadow projection. First, absolute certainty about another person's motivations. They don't say, "I think you might be." They insist, "You are," with total conviction about your inner world, motives, and character. Second, complete immunity to evidence. No amount of reasoning or proof can alter their perception. Any attempt to clarify only strengthens their belief that they're right. Third, emotional intensity that far exceeds the situation. They overreact to imagined offenses or trivial issues. Their emotional charge reveals the content of their projection, not your actual actions. Fourth, recurring victim narratives. They constantly find themselves in situations where they're the innocent target of cruelty, betrayal, or manipulation. The faces change, but the story stays the same. They're always the one wronged. Fifth, recruitment behavior. They subtly or openly try to convince others to see you through their distorted lens, often disguised as concern for your behavior or character. When these 5 traits appear together, you're not dealing with miscommunication or clashing personalities. You're facing unconscious shadow projection that will escalate until it destroys something: your reputation, your relationships, or your sanity. The real danger lies in how shadow projectors unconsciously enlist others into their distorted world. Jung called this collective possession, when entire groups begin perceiving reality through the projector's projections. When someone presents their delusions with absolute confidence, others feel pressured to conform to that certainty rather than trust their own contradictory perceptions. This is how families turn against scapegoated members, workplaces gang up on innocent colleagues, and communities destroy individuals based on groundless accusations. The projector becomes the center of a psychological storm, unconsciously organizing others to attack the very traits they cannot accept within themselves. But Jung identified another equally dangerous personality pattern: ego inflation. While shadow projectors act dangerously without awareness, inflated individuals are fully convinced of their righteousness yet remain completely blind to their own shadow. The inflated person doesn't just project their darkness, they merge with vast archetypal forces far beyond their personal ability to integrate. They become possessed by figures like the Savior, the Wise One, the Truth-Bearer, or the Righteous Judge. Unlike obvious narcissists, inflated individuals often appear spiritually advanced, morally superior, or intellectually enlightened. That appearance makes them far more dangerous, because others willingly surrender to their authority. Jung wrote extensively about psychological inflation in Analytical Psychology. The danger lies in the ego's identification with an archetype, leading to inflation that severs authentic human connection. Warning signs include an inability to question one's own motives. True spiritual teachers show humility before mystery, while inflated individuals exhibit total certainty in their perceptions. They interpret disagreement as evil, viewing criticism not as dialogue but as rebellion against truth, goodness, or divine will. They combine intense charisma with rigid thinking. Their conviction attracts followers, but their inflated state destroys psychological flexibility. Highly perceptive individuals often fall into what Jung called the prophet complex, the belief that they must awaken others from unconsciousness. This leads to preaching, judgment, and eventual isolation. Jung observed that the moment one believes themselves to be the bearer of absolute truth, they've already fallen into unconscious possession by the very archetypal forces they sought to master. He warned that inflated individuals eventually collapse under the psychic strain of identifying their small ego with transpersonal contents. But before they do, they often inflict enormous harm through their absolute conviction in their own righteousness. The third dangerous pattern Jung identified is total identification with the social persona, when the public mask becomes the person's entire identity. Jung called this the perfect person problem. Someone so perfectly adapted to social expectations that they've severed all connection to their true self and shadow. The danger is subtle, because such people appear as models of composure and correctness. They always know how to speak, how to act, which expressions to wear. Yet this perfection hides a terrifying emptiness. When all psychic energy is invested in maintaining a flawless image, the rejected shadow doesn't vanish. It builds up in the unconscious like pressure in a sealed container. The warning signs are easy to miss: unnatural social perfection, a complete absence of human inconsistency, and an artificial smoothness in every interaction. Despite their flawless composure, something about these persona-identified individuals always feels hollow or performative. Their reactions to any perceived threat to their image are extreme. Even mild challenges to their perfection trigger fierce defensiveness. Jung observed that such people often experience sudden shadow eruptions, explosive outbursts in which all the repressed material from their unconscious bursts forth destructively. The more polished the persona, the more violent and chaotic the inevitable collapse. These are the people who appear perfectly stable, until one day they aren't. And when they finally break, the destruction is catastrophic, pulling everyone around them into the fallout. So how can you maintain self-respect in the presence of such toxic individuals? Jung's answer was radical. You don't fight them on their battlefield. You integrate your own shadow first. The empath's transformation doesn't unfold slowly. It ignites in one defining, explosive moment. Jung described this as shadow integration under extreme duress. The catalyst is always betrayal. Specifically, betrayal by someone the empath had fully trusted and protected. What devastates them isn't merely the act itself, but the realization that they had sensed it all along and chose to ignore the signs. True to their nature, empaths internalized the pain. They stayed silent, blamed themselves, and tried harder to be the perfect partners, children, or friends. Then comes the breaking point Jung called the clarity event. This is when the empath's pattern recognition overwhelms their longing to believe in people's goodness. Most expect these empaths to cry, scream, or collapse, and their abusers expect that, too. But what follows terrifies everyone involved. The empath becomes eerily calm. Jung described it as the moment the victim realizes they've been playing chess while everyone else thought it was checkers. These empaths don't lash out or seek revenge. They begin to speak truth. They calmly reveal everything they've observed, catalogued, and silently endured, not with anger but surgical precision, as if diagnosing and excising emotional disease. This isn't vengeance, it's clarity. For the first time, they use their perception not to excuse behavior but to expose it. Hell has no fury like an empath who has finally learned to trust their own perceptions. The empath doesn't lose their mind from feeling too much. They lose it from constantly being told their feelings are wrong. Jung realized that this moment wasn't about revenge at all. It was shadow integration, the point when someone stops denying the parts of themselves they were trained to suppress. The empath's shadow was never evil. It was their repressed intelligence, silenced intuition, and denied strength. When they finally reintegrated these aspects, they became what Jung called psychologically complete. What disturbed Jung most was that the transformation was irreversible. These individuals never reverted to people-pleasing. They no longer apologized for their boundaries or doubted their perceptions. They had become what Jung most feared, empaths immune to manipulation. These transformed empaths often became exceptionally successful. Their businesses thrived because they could intuit clients' unspoken needs. Their relationships flourished because they could detect emotional predators within moments. Their decisions grew nearly flawless as they learned to trust their intuitive intelligence completely. Jung's realization chilled him. These empaths hadn't lost empathy, they had perfected it. And perfect empathy meant perfect strategy. They could influence others as effortlessly as they'd once been influenced. They understood human psychology with an almost supernatural precision, becoming what Jung privately called psychological architects, individuals capable of reading, shaping, and navigating human systems with uncanny accuracy. But what truly unsettled Jung was that these empaths didn't use their new power destructively. They could have annihilated those who harmed them, yet instead, they simply walked away, removing toxic people from their orbit. Jung recognized this as the emergence of the integrated empath, someone who possesses both the sensitivity to feel everything and the wisdom to choose where to direct their energy. These are the people manipulators fear most, those who can see through them entirely but need nothing from them. Jung noted how the presence of these transformed empaths affected everyone around them. Those who once exploited them suddenly grew uneasy, sensing that something fundamental had shifted. The empaths weren't aggressive or vengeful, yet others could feel their new power. Jung described this as the predator's instinct. Manipulators can subconsciously detect when their tactics no longer work, avoiding integrated empaths as vampires avoid sunlight. The awakened empath doesn't announce their power. Others feel it instinctively. Their transformation didn't just change them. It disrupted every system they belonged to. Family dynamics collapsed, not because they destroyed them, but because they stopped enabling dysfunction. Alcoholic relatives had to confront their addictions without emotional caretakers. Depressed family members could no longer rely on them for constant validation. Manipulative siblings lost their favorite targets. Jung realized how profoundly powerful these awakened empaths were. Their transformation forced everyone around them to evolve, or to reveal their true nature. The healthy individuals in their lives grew stronger by example. The toxic ones exposed themselves through desperate attempts to drag the empath back into old patterns. Jung called this the empath's mirror effect. These transformed souls no longer needed to confront dysfunction directly. Their presence alone reflected it back with startling clarity. Manipulators couldn't bear to be near them. They felt seen through, powerless, unable to play their usual games. Meanwhile, genuine people felt, for the first time, truly safe in their presence. The awakened empath becomes a living lie detector, not through judgment, but through pure presence. So what was Jung's protection protocol for dealing with toxic people before reaching psychological collapse? It's deceptively simple. Conscious awareness combined with immediate boundary enforcement. Step 1. Trust your gut. If someone's perception of you consistently clashes with your inner truth, believe your internal experience over their projections. Your sensitivity isn't a weakness. It's a refined data processing system developed over years. Respect that intelligence. Step 2. Don't try to convince them. Shadow projectors, inflated egos, and psychologically possessed individuals are immune to contradictory evidence. Arguing with them only strengthens their distortions. The moment you defend yourself, you've already entered their reality field and lost the psychological upper hand. Jung observed that projectors don't simply misinterpret reality. They unconsciously create alternate versions of it, ones that feel just as real to them and, over time, to everyone around them. Step 3. Limit information. Don't share personal details that can be twisted into proof for their delusions. Every piece of information you reveal becomes ammunition in their unconscious war against their own shadow. The less they know about your private world, the less material they can project onto. Guard your authentic self from those who cannot honor it. Step 4. Document interactions. Keep records of key conversations and events. Projectors often rewrite history to match their perceptions. When reality itself becomes contested, documentation becomes your anchor to truth. This isn't paranoia, it's psychological self-defense against minds whose memories reshape themselves to preserve projection. Step 5. Seek outside perspective. Talk to trusted people who know both you and the projector. Check reality with those outside the projection field. When gaslighting occurs, outside observers help you maintain contact with objective truth. Choose individuals who are psychologically aware, capable of introspection, and comfortable acknowledging their own contradictions. Step 6. Withdraw when necessary. Sometimes the only winning move is not to play. If someone displays multiple warning signs, strategic withdrawal may be your best protection. Jung emphasized that real individuation doesn't mean escaping the unconscious, it means engaging with it consciously. The hermit who steps back from projection isn't retreating from life, but preserving psychological integrity so they can return to it authentically. Jung's central insight was this: maintaining self-respect in the presence of toxic people isn't about defeating them, it's about individuation. This means developing conscious discrimination, learning to distinguish your own psychological material from what you've absorbed from others. The foundation of individuation is solitude, spending regular time alone to let internal noise settle, so you can hear your authentic inner voice. The first task is discernment, recognizing what belongs to you and what doesn't. Without this separation, no true self-development can occur. Then comes shadow integration, the acceptance that every human quality you recognize in others also exists within you. This doesn't make you bad. It makes you whole. The more you deny your darkness, the more disturbed you become by witnessing it in others. That's the paradox. The only way to protect yourself from toxic projections is to integrate your own shadow first. Jung found that people who see others' shadows most vividly often do so because they haven't faced their own. The more you reject your potential for selfishness, deceit, or aggression, the more reactive you'll be when you encounter those traits externally. Everything that irritates us about others, Jung wrote, can lead us to an understanding of ourselves, but only if we have the courage to look inward instead of outward. Shadow integration means acknowledging that you contain the full spectrum of human qualities. It doesn't make you cruel or impure, it makes you complete, capable of perceiving clearly without moral judgment. Finally comes conscious participation, using Jung's protection protocol in daily life. Trust your intuition over others' projections, refuse to argue with distortion, limit what you share, document interactions, and withdraw when needed. The only winning move with the unconscious is not to play its game. This isn't about becoming cold or detached, it's about becoming what Jung called selectively empathetic, deeply compassionate, yet discerning about where that compassion flows. The individuated person serves as a bridge between the conscious and the unconscious, helping others awaken to their own hidden depths without sacrificing personal integrity. The awakened empath is, ultimately, love with boundaries. Someone who can care deeply while protecting themselves completely. Their transformation forces those around them to either evolve or expose their true nature. Manipulators avoid them like vampires avoid sunlight. Their very presence becomes a living lie detector. The question isn't whether the empath will break, it's whether they'll learn to direct their power, or let that power direct them. Self-respect in the presence of toxic people isn't about fighting, it's about integration. The real danger lies not in perception itself, but in failing to use that perception wisely. They didn't become someone new. They became who they always were beneath the layers of conditioning. Jung's most unsettling discovery wasn't that some people see everything. It's that most who do never learn to use that sight with wisdom. The danger isn't in seeing deeply. It's in lacking a conscious relationship with what you see. You're not too much for this world. You are exactly what the evolution of consciousness requires. Once you learn to wield your perception as deliberately as Jung wielded his, the risk of seeing too much disappears. The true risk is failing to see with integration and wisdom, the level of maturity your gift demands. Your sensitivity isn't a flaw, it's your weapon. And the day you learn to wield it consciously is the day you become truly powerful. Not dangerous to the innocent, but dangerous to those who would exploit your empathy. That's what the world needs more of, empaths who know their worth, trust their perceptions, and refuse to dim their light to keep others comfortable. The world doesn't need more broken empaths, it needs more awakened ones. And Jung's research proves this transformation isn't just possible, it's inevitable. The empath will reach a breaking point. The only question is, will you direct that power, or will it direct you? Choose conscious transformation. Because the most beautiful part of Jung's findings is this: these transformed empaths never lost their capacity for love. They simply learned to love themselves as fiercely as they once loved others. Jung wrote that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, and then to offer that authentic self in service to the whole. The awakened empath is this exact embodiment. Not hardened, not cynical, but someone who can see clearly without judgment, feel deeply without the need to fix, and accept reality without attachment. This is what Jung called the transcendent function. The ability to serve the evolution of consciousness effortlessly, simply by living more consciously. If you recognize yourself in Jung's description of the highly perceptive individual, you're part of a rare psychological type, one Jung believed essential to human evolution. Your individuation journey connects you with others walking the same path. Subscribe for more insights into Jung's discoveries about psychological development that transcends the collective unconscious. See you in the next dimension.